The Red Bull isn't cutting it. My hands are shaking too much to even hold my phone steady. Fucking Kate. 5 years. 5 years I poured into that goddamn woman. 3 of them married. And now I can't sleep. Not a chance in hell. Might as well bleed this poison onto the screen. Maybe someone somewhere can learn from my catastrophic fuck-up. Kate. Christ, it still feels weird to think of her that way. Kate! We met at a Super Bowl party. My friend Liam's place. Back when I was rocking that Rust Bucket Civic with the AC that sounded like a dying walrus. She laughed at my jokes. Actually seemed interested when I droned on about fixing printers and installing software updates. I was a goner from that first Bud Light. Those early days, they were a goddamn movie montage. Late nights fueled by cheap beer and bad pizza. Just talking. About everything. About nothing. We dissect the nuances of some obscure documentary, then descend into a giggling fit over a stupid meme. Video games. Binge-watching shows. She was cool with me grabbing beers with the guys on weekends. No nagging. No guilt trips. And I always brought her back those caramel pretzel things from the gas station. Small things. That was us. Our first apartment. A shoebox in a building that smelled perpetually of curry and despair. Thin walls. You could hear Miss S. Henderson's bladder complain 3 floors up. But it was ours. I worked my ass off, double shifts, weekends, to scrape together enough for a decent flat screen. Football season demanded it. She'd have dinner waiting when I got home, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Kate was hot, smart, a dental hygienist, for Christ's sake, and she seemed to actually, genuinely dig my average, cubicle-dwelling self. My buddies were green with envy. Even my mother, a woman who habitually finds fault with oxygen, approved of her. That's saying something. We took random weekend road trips. No destination, no plan. Just pick a direction and drive until we hit a diner that looked sufficiently greasy. One time, we ended up in some fleabag motel with bed bugs the size of raisins. We still laughed about it. Used to anyway. I proposed after 2 years. A stupid, clumsy, heartfelt mess of a proposal. Japanese restaurant she loved. Nothing extravagant. Got down on one knee between the miso soup and the teriyaki chicken. The ring wasn't some diamond the size of a golf ball. But she cried. Good tears. Said it was perfect. The first couple of years of marriage. Solid. Safe. Sunday morning pancakes. Friday night movies. Dumb inside jokes scrawled on post-it notes stuck to each other's lunch bags. Regular. Comfortable. Happy. I worked my ass off busting my hump to get promoted. Wanted to move us to a better place. Maybe start talking about kids. She seemed on board. We were a team. A goddamn team. Then she got that new job. Fancy dental office downtown. Corner office. Better pay. Better hours. I was thrilled for her. Genuinely. Took her out to celebrate at that steakhouse she'd always wanted to try. That's when things started to crack. But so slowly, so subtly, I didn't even register it at first. The new job came with new acquaintances. Suddenly, she was going out for work drinks all the time. Networking. Started dressing different. Nicer clothes. More makeup. Hair that looked like it had been styled by actual professionals. The whole 9 yards. I figured it was just the big city life. Our routines started slipping. Sunday pancakes became me eating a bowl of lukewarm Cheerios alone while she slept in. The post-it notes vanished. Movie nights got postponed, then canceled outright. At first I told myself it was just the adjustment period. New job, new schedule, right? But weeks turned into months and things never snapped back to normal. Then there were the late nights. She'd text, "Be home by 7, then roll in at 10 smelling vaguely of perfume that wasn't hers, without so much as a sorry. Work stuff was all I got if I dared to ask. Her phone became a goddamn extension of her hand. Always texting, always angled away from me. The screen locked, password changed too. That was new. We always knew each other's passwords. It was. It was trust, or so I thought. I started wondering if I was doing something wrong. Maybe I wasn't romantic enough. Maybe work was stressing her out. Maybe I wasn't good enough anymore. I tried talking to her about it, but she'd just brush me off. Everything's fine, Jake. You're overthinking. So, I stepped up my goddamn game. I cleaned more. I cooked her favorite meals, the ones she used to rave about, suggested date nights, bought random, stupid little gifts, basically did everything I could think of to conjure that magic back, to get back to us. Sometimes it seemed to work. She'd be the old Kate for a day or two, all affectionate, present, then she'd vanish again, swallowed whole by her phone, barely acknowledging my existence. I mentioned it to Chris one night while we were gaming, just casually. Kate seems different lately. Dude, that's just marriage, he said, not even looking up from the screen. Honeymoon phase ends. Real life kicks in. Stop being so needy. Needy? Is it needy to want your wife to actually talk to you? To want more than one-word answers and half-assed excuses? But I second-guessed myself. Maybe Chris was right. Maybe I was expecting too much. Maybe this was just what happened after a few years together. So I kept trying, and failing, and trying again. Idiot. She kept acting weird. I remember one time I walked into the kitchen while she was texting. She literally jumped, flipped her phone over like it was a live grenade. I asked, "What's up?" She got all defensive. God, Jake. Do I have to explain every text message to you? It's just work stuff. You wouldn't understand. Work stuff I wouldn't understand? Since when was dental hygiene so goddamn complicated that her it-grunt husband couldn't grasp it? But instead of calling her out, I apologized. Actually apologized for asking a simple question. That's how twisted things had gotten in my head. I started trying to plan special dates, thinking maybe she was just bored with our routine. Got tickets to a concert for a band she used to love. Made reservations at that fancy French restaurant with the 6-week waiting list. Even booked a weekend getaway at this cabin in the mountains she'd been talking about for months. Guess what happened? She found excuses to bail on almost everything. The concert? Sorry, Emma's. Her colleague going through a breakup and needs me tonight. The fancy dinner? I'm exhausted from work. Can we just order in? The weekend trip, she actually went on that one, but spent most of it hunched over her phone, texting furiously, even had video calls, whispering when she thought I couldn't hear her. We ended up cutting it short, coming home early because she suddenly wasn't feeling well. Convenient. After we got back from that disaster of a trip, I checked our credit card statement online. Just a regular thing I did, making sure there weren't any weird charges. And there it was, a charge from some hotel bar downtown. Date and time. When she was supposedly working late. When I casually mentioned it, she got super defensive. Are you checking up on me now? Stalking my purchases? That's really controlling, Jake. Controlling for looking at our shared credit card statement? She made me feel like I was losing my goddamn mind. I started to wonder if maybe I was becoming paranoid. Controlling. Was I turning into that jealous husband who freaks out over nothing? My brain was so scrambled, I couldn't tell what was normal concern and what was me overreacting. So I backed off, tried to give her space, stopped asking questions, stopped suggesting dates, just tried to observe. Her girls' nights with Emma went from once every few weeks to multiple times a week. She started going to the gym at weird hours, like 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. Kate used to hate working out, would rather staple her eyelids to her forehead than set foot in a gym. Suddenly, she was a CrossFit enthusiast. Something didn't add up. One night, her stepsister, Mia, came over for dinner. They'd always had this weird relationship, sometimes best friends, sometimes locked in some passive-aggressive Cold War of thinly veiled insults. Kate only invited her because their parents were pressuring them to bond more or some bullshit. Dinner was actually okay at first, just normal chit-chat. About family stuff, Mia struggles with finding stable employment. The kind of bland, polite conversation you have when you're trying not to stab each other with the silverware. Then Kate's phone kept buzzing. Text after text. She'd check it, smile, typing back quickly each time. After like the 10th interruption, Mia rolled her eyes. Seriously, Kate? We're having dinner. Can you put the phone down for 5 minutes? Kate got defensive. It's work. Some of us have important jobs with actual responsibilities. A direct shot at Mia, who was between jobs at the time. Things got tense. Quick. A few glasses of wine later, they were fully going at it. About some ancient family drama. Something about Kate hogging the spotlight at their grandmother's funeral. I don't even know. I was just sitting there awkwardly, wishing I could teleport myself to a different dimension. As Mia was leaving, she turned to me in the doorway, dropped a goddamn grenade. You know, Jake? For someone as smart as you can be really blind sometimes. Ask Kate about her late nights at the office. Or better yet, ask who keeps texting her all hours. Kate completely lost it. Started screaming that Mia was a jealous, manipulative bitch, trying to hurt her because she was miserable in her own life. The fight was epic. Plates nearly got thrown. After Mia left, Kate was still raging. About what a liar her stepsister was. How she'd always been jealous of our relationship. But here's the thing. While Kate was yelling, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Not anger. Fear. That night, I lay awake next to her for hours, just listening to her breathe, wondering what the hell was really going on. Maybe Mia was just stirring up shit because of their weird sister rivalry thing. But another part of me kept replaying all the strange behavior of the past few months, and it was getting harder to ignore. The next morning, Kate acted like nothing had happened, made coffee, kissed me goodbye, went to work like normal. But something had shifted inside me. I couldn't unhear what Mia had said, couldn't unsee that look of fear in Kate's eyes. For the first time, I started to think maybe I wasn't crazy after all. Maybe I wasn't the problem. Maybe there was something seriously wrong with my marriage, and it had nothing to do with me not trying hard enough. That's when I decided to stop ignoring my gut and start paying attention to what was really happening, right in front of my face. So I started throwing casual questions about her day. How's Emma doing? I'd ask, watching her reaction. Once, just once. I caught her hesitating before answering. A tiny pause. Like she had to remember what lies she'd already told about Emma. How was the office happy hour? I'd ask, not mentioning that I'd already seen on Instagram that Emma wasn't even there. Despite Kate saying they'd hung out all night. Little stuff like that. Building a picture, piece by piece. Then I switched up my schedule, coming home at random times. Server went down. They sent us home early, I'd say. Or finished that project ahead of schedule. Normal reasons to be home at unexpected times. One day, about a week later, I had this gut feeling. Can't explain it. Just woke up knowing something was off. So I told Kate I had a morning meeting that might run into the afternoon. Instead, I drove back home around 11 a.m. Her car was in the driveway, which was weird, because she should have been at work. I let myself in quietly, and I could hear her on the phone in our bedroom, laughing, not just any laugh, that full, genuine laugh, the one I hadn't heard directed at me in months. When she heard the door close, there was this scrambling sound. Then she came out of the bedroom looking flustered. Hey! What are you doing home? She asked, trying to sound casual, but obviously freaked out. Meeting got canceled, I said. What are you doing home? Oh, I had a half day. Forgot to mention. Just catching up on some stuff. Didn't explain the phone call. I didn't push it. That night, I checked our credit card statement again. There was a charge from that Italian restaurant near her office, Bella Nade. When I casually brought it up, she got defensive. Oh, they had that dental conference thing. We all went for drinks after. Didn't I tell you? She hadn't. and I looked it up later. There was no dental conference that day. Another lie. The next day, I decided to see for myself what was going on. Told her I had a lunch meeting with a client near her office. Maybe we could grab coffee after, I suggested. Oh, wish I could, but I'm swamped today. No real lunch break. I said I understood. Then, around lunchtime, I drove to her office, parked across the street, where I could see the entrance to that Italian place she'd charged lunch at before. Sure enough, at 12:15, Kate walked in. But she wasn't alone, and it definitely wasn't with the whole office. Just one guy. Tall, nice suit, perfect hair, teeth that probably gleamed like polished ivory. They weren't sitting like colleagues. He pulled out her chair, touched her back as she sat down. They were sitting close, leaning in, laughing. She kept touching his arm when he said something funny. I felt like someone had punched me in the goddamn stomach. Literally had to lean over in my car because I thought I might puke. All those months of wondering what was wrong with me, why I wasn't good enough. And here she was, having lunch with some Ken doll in a three-piece suit. I wanted to storm in there and make a scene, flip their table, ask this dude if he knew she was married. But I just sat there, gripping my steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I took pictures with my phone, not for some dramatic confrontation. I wasn't ready for that yet, but because I needed proof, needed to remind myself later that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined all of this. When they came out an hour later, he hugged her goodbye. Not a quick, friendly hug, one of those lingering ones, with his face buried in her hair. Then she checked her watch, fixed her lipstick, and headed back to the office. Like nothing had happened. I sat in my car for another 20 minutes, just trying to process. Then I called Mia. We need to talk, I said. Not over the phone. We met at a coffee shop way across town, where there was zero chance of running into Kate. Mia looked uncomfortable when she sat down, like she regretted what she'd said that night at dinner. I shouldn't have blurted it out like that, she said right away. It wasn't my place. But I couldn't watch you beating yourself up anymore when I knew what was really going on. Just tell me what you know, I said. I need to hear it all, she sighed. His name is Ethan. He's some hotshot oral surgeon at the practice. Been there about 6 months. Kate mentioned him a few times when they first hired him, then suddenly stopped bringing him up at all. That seemed weird to me. She took a sip of her coffee. Then, I saw them together at the mall a few weeks ago. When Kate told me she was working late, they didn't see me. The way they were together, it wasn't friendly, Jake. It was intimate. I nodded, feeling weirdly calm, numb. Anything else? Emma's been covering for her, at least once that I know of. Kate told you she was with Emma one night, but she called me that same night asking to borrow my black dress. Completely forgetting she was supposed to be out with Emma already. We talked for over an hour. By the end, I wasn't even angry anymore. Just empty, like someone had hollowed me out. What are you going to do? Mia asked. I don't know yet, I said, but I'm not confronting her without a plan. On the drive home, I realized something. I'd been talking to Mia for an hour, and it was the most honest conversation I'd had with anyone in months. That said something about the state of my marriage right there. When I got home that night, Tate was already there, watching some reality show, like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't been with another man just hours earlier. Like our entire marriage wasn't a complete sham. Hey, she said, barely looking up. How was your day? I almost laughed at how bizarre it was. Small talk. After everything. Fine, I said, and went to take a shower. I stood under the hot water for nearly an hour, letting it wash away the rage that was building inside. The next morning, I met with a lawyer. Found this guy through a coworker who'd been through a nasty divorce. He laid it all out. What documentation I needed, how to protect my finances, what to say and not say to Kate. Don't move out of the house, he warned. That's mistake number 1. And don't confront her until we're ready. The minute you do, this becomes a war. And she'll start hiding assets, deleting evidence. The works. I took his advice. Went home. Kissed Kate on the cheek like normal. Watch TV beside her while she texted Ethan. Still made me sick knowing who was on the other end of those messages. Pretended not to notice when she'd take calls in the bathroom with the shower running. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything. Screenshots of credit card statements, showing restaurant charges when she was working late. Notes about all her unexplained absences. Photos of her and Ethan together when I could get them without being noticed. I also started separating our finances. Slowly, so she wouldn't notice. Not everything, since that would tip her off, but enough that I wouldn't be completely screwed when the shit hit the fan. The hardest part was acting normal, having breakfast with her, making small talk, pretending I didn't know our marriage was a complete joke. I'd watch her get all dressed up for work, knowing exactly who she was really dressing for, and have to stop myself from saying something, from screaming. During this time, I kept talking to Mia. At first, it was just about Kate and Ethan. She'd tell me when Kate had lied about her whereabouts, forward me social media posts where Kate had been tagged at places she'd never mentioned to me. Basic reconnaissance. But after a while, our conversations shifted. We'd grab coffee and end up talking about everything else. Movies, work, childhood stories, normal friend stuff. I learned more about Mia in those few weeks than I had in the 5 years I'd known her as Kate's stepsister. She was actually pretty cool, smart, funny, in this dry, sarcastic way, and surprisingly easy to talk to. She didn't judge me for not confronting Kate immediately, or for the days when I was so angry I could barely form sentences. "I get it," she said once, when I was beating myself up for being so blind. "You need to process this on your terms, not hers." One night after a particularly rough day, where I'd driven by Ethan's apartment complex and seen Kate's car parked there. Yeah, I know how pathetic that sounds, but I needed to confirm. For the divorce. Mia and I ended up at a coffee shop. As she was calling us an Uber, she said something that stuck with me. "You know, Jake, Kate's an idiot. Not because she cheated. That just makes her an asshole. She's an idiot because she had someone who loved her completely, and she threw it away." Do you know how rare that is? The Uber came before I could respond, but her words stayed with me. The next morning, I called the lawyer, told him to finalize the divorce papers. I was done gathering evidence, done playing detective. I just needed to find the right moment to end things. I wanted Kate to know I wasn't blindsided, that I wasn't begging her to stay. I wanted her to understand exactly what she'd thrown away. The perfect opportunity came on a Thursday. About 3 weeks after I'd started my documentation project, Kate came home weirdly cheerful, which I'd learned was a red flag. The more cheerful she was, the bigger the lie she was about to tell. "I made reservations for us at Bellinat tomorrow night," she said, referring to that Italian place where I'd seen her with Ethan. "I thought we could use a nice dinner out. Just the two of us." I knew immediately what this was. The fancy restaurant. The just the two of us emphasis. She was setting the stage for something big, and my gut told me it wasn't a reconciliation. My first thought was that she was going to tell me she wanted a divorce, probably had it all planned out. She'd break the news somewhere public so I wouldn't make a scene, then go straight to Ethan's place afterward. Or maybe Ethan would coincidentally show up at the restaurant. Some dramatic reveal where she introduced him as her colleague, who just happened to be dining alone. So she invited him to join us. Then later, once I was sufficiently softened up, she'd confess they had feelings for each other. Either way, she clearly thought she was in control of the situation, that she'd be the one to decide when and how our marriage ended. "Not this time." "Sounds great," I said, smiling like I meant it. "I've been wanting to try that place." That night, I texted Mia. "It's happening tomorrow at Bella's." Her response was immediate. "What do you need from me?" I told her my plan. It was time to play the final card. The next day at work, I could barely focus, kept checking my email for the final divorce papers. The lawyer was supposed to send them over. They arrived around 2 p.m. I printed them out, put them in a manila envelope, and tucked it into my jacket pocket. When I got home to change for dinner, Kate was already getting ready. She'd bought a new dress I'd never seen before, had her hair and makeup done professionally. was wearing perfume she normally saved for special occasions. All this effort for a dinner where she was planning to dump me. The absolute audacity. I put on my best shirt. That blue one she always said brought out my eyes. Fixed my hair. Even wore the cologne she'd given me last Christmas that I rarely used. If this was going to be our last dinner as a married couple, I wanted to look good for what came next. As we drove to Bella's, she made unusually animated small talk, work stories, gossip about friends, even threw in a few nostalgic memories from our early days together, softening me up for the kill, I guess. I played along, laughing at her stories, asking questions, acting like I was having a great time. Inside, my heart was pounding so hard I thought she might hear it. The divorce papers felt like they were burning a hole in my jacket pocket. Part of me was terrified, not going to lie. This was the moment where I'd either take back control or look like a complete idiot. Either way, this show was about to reach its finale. When she came back from her mysterious bathroom trip, we got seated at a nice corner table. Perfect spot for what she had planned. Private enough for a serious conversation, but public enough that I wouldn't make a scene. Pretty calculating when you think about it. She was barely touching her food, just pushing it around her plate. I noticed her eyes kept darting to the entrance every time the door opened. Waiting for someone, obviously. I was trying to act normal, but my heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The divorce papers felt like they were burning a hole in my jacket pocket. Part of me was terrified. Not going to lie. This was the moment where I'd either take back control or look like a complete idiot. Either way, this show was about to reach its finale. After about 20 minutes of pointless small talk, Kate suddenly put down her fork, took a deep breath, and looked directly at me. With this rehearsed expression, "Jake, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice oddly calm, detached. "I'm leaving you," she said. She said it so casually, like she was telling me she'd picked up the dry cleaning. Like 5 years of marriage meant absolutely nothing. Before I could even respond, she continued, "I've been trying to make this work for a long time, but I can't do it anymore. We've grown apart. You're just not the man I thought you'd become." I sat there, feeling a strange mix of rage and bizarre amusement. She was actually doing it, delivering her breakup speech that she'd probably practiced in the mirror. "I deserve to be happy," she went on, gaining confidence when I didn't immediately respond. "And the truth is, I've met someone who challenges me in ways you never could." Then she went for the jugular. "You've always been so content with mediocrity, Jake. Same job, same friends, same boring routines. I need more than that. I need someone with ambition, with drive, someone who pushes me to be better." Each word was designed to cut deep, to make me feel small. And a few months ago, it would have worked. I would have been devastated, begging her to reconsider, promising to change. But not today. I sat back in my chair, staring at her, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably long. She started to fidget. "Aren't you going to say anything?" she finally asked. "Is Ethan joining us? Or is he waiting for your signal?" I asked calmly. Her face went completely white. The confidence drained away instantly. "What? Who's Ethan?" she stammered, eyes wide with panic. "Oh, you don't know Ethan? He's the oral surgeon you've been fucking for the past 3 months," I said. "Is he joining us? Or were you planning to meet him after?" Crushing my spirit. She opened and closed her mouth several times. No words coming out. It was like watching someone's entire plan collapse in real time. "How did you?" I finished for her. "I've known for a while, Kate. The late nights. The change password on your phone. The secret texts. Did you really think I was that stupid? It's not what you think," she stammered. I cut her off. "I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about Ethan. I just want you to know that you're not blindsiding me. I've been 10 steps ahead of you this whole time." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the manila envelope. "If you want it out, you could have just said so," I said, sliding the envelope across the table. "Instead, you dragged it out for months, making me think I was the problem." She opened the envelope with shaking hands. then stared at the divorce papers inside. You're filing for divorce? Already filed, I corrected her. Those are your copies. My lawyer will contact yours on Monday. The shock on her face was incredible. This wasn't following her script at all. But I don't understand. I was going to tell you tonight. I was going to tell you that we could still be friends. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Friends? After months of lying to my face? After planning this little public humiliation? You really think that highly of yourself, don't you? Her phone buzzed on the table. Ethan. Right on cue. She glanced at it, then back at me. Go ahead, I nodded at her phone. Tell your boyfriend plans have changed. Shakily, she picked up her phone and stepped away from the table. When she came back, her composure was cracking. Jake, I think we should talk about this more. Maybe one more thing. I cut her off again, checking my watch. I didn't come alone either. I sent a quick text to Mia. The restaurant door opened, and Mia walked in. She spotted us and headed our way. Kate's eyes widened in disbelief. You brought my stepsister to our breakup dinner? She hissed. No, I corrected. As Mia reached our table, I just brought my date. I stood up, dropped enough cash on the table to cover the bill, and offered Mia my arm. Ready? Mia smiled, took my arm, and together we walked past a speechless Kate. At the door, I turned back one last time. My face must have been cold as ice, because Kate actually flinched. Oh, and one last thing? I've known about Ethan since the day you first met him. Mia's been keeping me updated. Every lie. Every late night at the office. We've been laughing about it for months. That wasn't entirely true, but the look on Kate's face was worth the embellishment. As we walked to my car, Mia squeezed my arm. You okay? I took a deep breath of the cool night air. The anger was subsiding, leaving behind something that felt like freedom. Surprisingly? Yeah, I really am. We ended up going to a bar across town. I bought Mia a drink to thank her for playing along with my plan. Neither of us really felt like celebrating. It wasn't that kind of night. But it felt good to be with someone who knew the whole truth and was on my side. That was pretty brutal, Mia said after a while. I've never seen you like that before. I shrugged. She was planning to humiliate me in public, to sit there and tell me I wasn't good enough. That I was mediocre while she'd been cheating for months. She deserved worse. Mia nodded slowly. Still, the cold, calculated way you handled it. I didn't know you had that in you. Neither did I admitted. But I'm not sorry. Not even a little bit. As I drove Mia home, I realized Kate had probably already called Ethan to pick her up from the restaurant. She might not even come home tonight. I was right. When I got home, the house was empty. Kate didn't come back until the next afternoon. By then, I'd already packed a bag. I wasn't leaving permanently. Rick had been very clear about staying in the house, but I needed a few days away to clear my head. As I was zipping up my duffel bag, Kate came into the bedroom. Her eyes were red, swollen. Where are you going? She asked, her voice small. Chris's place, just for a few days. While you figure out where you're going to live, you're kicking me out now? She sounded angry. I'm the primary on the mortgage. I have the right to stay, I pointed out. But I'll give you some time to make arrangements, I said. She stared at me like I was a stranger. In a way, I guess I was. She thought I would beg her to stay, or blame myself. But that guy was gone. What happened to you? She whispered. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, You did. Then I walked out with my bag, got in my car, and drove to Chris's place. Without looking back once, I crashed at Chris's place for about a week, told him everything that happened. The affair, the divorce papers, the whole restaurant scene. He was impressed. Not going to lie, dude. Ice cold, he said, laughing as he handed me a beer. Didn't think you had it in you. Of course Kate wasn't going down without a fight. The next day, my phone blew up with texts and calls. First, angry messages calling me every name in the book. Then tearful voicemails begging me to talk. Then threats about how she'd take me for everything I had. I didn't respond to any of it. Just forwarded the threatening ones to Rick and blocked her number. Her meltdown wasn't my problem anymore. When I finally went back to the house, Kate was waiting for me, eyes all puffy, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She followed me around while I grabbed more clothes, asking if we could please just talk. Talk about what? I asked, not even looking at her while I packed. You made yourself pretty clear at Bella Knot. You said you're leaving me, remember? I didn't mean that, she cried. I was just saying what I thought would hurt you. Please, Jake. You can't just throw away 5 years because of one mistake. I nearly laughed. One mistake? Kate, you've been sleeping with this guy for months, lying to my face every day. That's not a mistake. It's a choice. A series of choices. She switched tactics. Trying anger? Is this about Mia? Are you seriously sleeping with my stepsister to get back at me? That's sick, Jake. I just smiled. What Mia and I do is none of your business anymore. You gave up the right to ask about my personal life when you decided to cheat. So, you are with her? Kate said, her voice rising. How long has this been going on? Were you cheating too? Is that why you're so eager to divorce me? I laughed out loud. That's rich, coming from you. No, Kate. Unlike you, I don't cheat. But what happens now that we're done? That's my business. She looked at me like I was a stranger. What happened to you? I woke up, I said simply. Now, I want you out of the house by next weekend. Take whatever furniture you brought into the marriage. The rest stays. She started crying again. But I was immune to it now. Her tears had lost all power over me. Where am I supposed to go? She sobbed. Not my problem, I shrugged. Call Ethan. I'm sure he'd love to have you move in. As I walked out the door with my stuff, I heard her scream something about how I'd regret this. I didn't even turn around, just got in my car and drove off. Felt great, honestly. The rumor started flying almost immediately. Kate told everyone who would listen that I'd been cheating with Mia all along. I didn't bother correcting anyone. Let them think what they wanted. The people who mattered knew the truth. The real explosion came when Kate's family got involved. Her mom called me, absolutely livid, screaming about how I was a disgusting person for hooking up with Mia behind Kate's back. I just let her rant, then calmly said, maybe you should ask your daughter about her oral surgeon boyfriend before pointing fingers. Then her dad called. Same accusations. I gave him the same response. By the end of the week, their family was in complete chaos. Kate's parents were fighting with each other about whose fault it was their daughter cheated. Kate and Mia's mutual friends were taking sides. Kate's older brother, who'd always liked me, called to say he believed me and thought Kate had fucked up royally. Meanwhile, Mia and I kept being seen together around town. We weren't actually dating, just friends, hanging out. But we didn't correct anyone's assumptions. Let Kate think what she wanted. The mental torture of imagining her stepsister with her ex-husband was perfect revenge. The legal battle wasn't as dramatic as I expected. Kate contested everything at first, demanded alimony, despite making more than me, tried to claim I was abusive with zero evidence. But my lawyer was good at his job, and I had documentation of her affair. In the end, she got less than she wanted, and I kept the house. After buying out her portion, the divorce was finalized 3 months later. I didn't feel anything special, just another day. Kate moved in with Ethan, into one of those luxury apartments downtown that she always wanted. According to mutual friends, they're already having problems. Turns out, Mr. Perfect has been caught texting other women, twice. She tried to reach out to me recently. Something about missing our friendship. I left her on read. Not my circus, not my monkeys. As for me, life's better than ever. The house is fully mine now. I redecorated immediately, painted the walls colors Kate always hated. Got a PS5 and gaming setup she always said was childish. I also got a dog from the shelter, named Rex, who sleeps on the bed and doesn't give a shit if I leave clothes on the floor. And Mia. That's where things got interesting. What started as a let's mess with Kate charade turned into something real. We kept showing up together at places we knew Kate would hear about, posting pics together on social media. The works? Kate was losing her mind, thinking her stepsister had stolen her husband. Her family completely imploded. Half of them wouldn't speak to Mia. The other half thought Kate deserved every bit of it. At first, Mia and I were just friends, playing along with everyone's assumptions. But spending all that time together, something started to change. One night, after we'd grabbed dinner at Kate's favorite restaurant, deliberately, Mia stopped me in the parking lot. "You know, this whole fake dating thing has been fun," she said. "But I'm starting to wonder if we're still pretending." I was caught off guard. "What do you mean?" She looked at me straight on. From day one, I watched how you handled this whole mess. You set boundaries and refused to be disrespected. Most guys I know would have fallen apart. But you just got tougher, she continued, stepping closer, putting her hand on my chest. A real man like you doesn't deserve to get screwed over. You deserve someone who actually sees what they've got. Then she just leaned in and kissed me, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I fell hard. That night changed everything. Turns out Mia had feelings for me almost from the beginning, but held back because of the whole divorce situation and not wanting to be the rebound girl. But as weeks turned into months, it became harder for her to pretend. We decided to give it a real shot, without telling anyone, not even to correct their assumptions. Let them think what they wanted. The only difference was, now we weren't faking it. Kate found out we were actually together, and she completely lost it. Sent Mia this long, unhinged text about betrayal and sister code, conveniently forgetting she'd been the one to cheat first. Mia just forwarded it to me with a laughing emoji. So, what's the takeaway from all this? Stand up for yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. Document everything. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Last week, I ran into Kate's mom at the grocery store. She actually apologized for how she reacted during the divorce. Said she'd finally gotten the full story from one of Kate's friends who couldn't keep the secret anymore. She looked embarrassed when she mentioned how she'd accused me of cheating with Mia. "So, you and Mia are actually together now?" she asked awkwardly. I just smiled and grabbed my bags. "Mia's the best thing that came out of this whole mess. Have a nice day, Miss S. Lockwood." Her face when I said that? Priceless. So, that's my story, bros. Not the happily ever after I planned, but maybe an even better one. Sometimes the person who helps you through your darkest times is the one who deserves to be there for the brightest ones too.